Can I give you some quick slob news? I got slob news. This is like actual slobbishness. Normally, when we use the term slob around here, it's used to describe when you outsource editing to an underpaid person on the internet.
Yep.
But this time, there's a Twitch streamer named Asmongold. You guys ever encounter this guy?
Yes, I'm familiar.
Do you know him?
His name sounds familiar. I don't know who he is.
Yeah, I've watched him before.
He's got like a long face, big teeth, beard. He reacts in a very animated way on a stream. Have you ever encountered anything like that on the internet?
I only think there's a couple of those people.
Well, this guy is pretty big on Twitch. I've seen like his clips on YouTube on occasion, depending on like where the algorithm's landing me. And he makes something like 2.5 million from his operation here. So he's a wealthy man, and he's been living in squalor. You guys,
Squalor?
yeah. Like part of the charm is that his house is a complete fucking mess.
That's charm?
It's part of his lore, part of his story, part of who he is, part of what he's about. Like they'll talk about how he leaves like tons of fast food cups all over the place. So he's got like all untold amounts of money and a house that like has dead animals in it and this kind of thing.
Did his family die in a car accident and he needs to adopt rats as replacements?
Right. It is like the rat guy where you're finally like, hey, what's going on here? Why is this place such a fucking sty? And he's like,
The rats are my family now.
What would you ever want a rat for? Don't knock it till you tried it.
Here's the story. Asmongold's streaming room is iconic for all the wrong reasons. Over time, his setup became littered with trash until the mess finally reached a breaking point. While he may have cleaned his room back in 2022... What a lead-in. The same can't be said for his entire house, which the streamer says has gotten so bad that he's going to need to bite the bullet and break out the cleaning supplies. You understand why this is slob news now?
This is hard-hitting news, huh?
Like literally slob news. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. During a June 7th stream, Asmongold explained that he returned from an event where he stayed in a hotel, and when he stepped foot in his house, he felt as if something had, quote-unquote, died inside. I feel like there's at least one dead animal in my house right now, he said. I'm like 70% sure. And it's been there for a while. There's mold and shit everywhere, too. I feel like I'm going to clean my house. I'm going to be honest. I feel like I'm actually going to clean my house. I am.
How like this is totally ridiculous. Like if I had that kind of money just lying around,
right?
I would have a room decorated to be like that, and then have someone clean the house.
I know people who are relatively poor and they have cleaning people.
Yeah.
I mean, but the fact that there would even be a temptation to have your background area look like a fucking pigsty, like in your art decorated scenario. Like, what's that about? Like, oh, it's so relatable that you live in squalor?
I think it really is that. I think it is supposed to be like, this person's just like me or worse than me, so I can look upon them and not be, judged down. I think that's part of the appeal.
Yeah, you're probably right, but you realize how bad that is.
Oh, yeah. It's like, it's terribly toxic. Instead of looking up at people, you're like, oh, he's worse than me. It's,
The coolest people are the most, disastrous. Like it's, like my role model is living in filth and it's funny. He detailed another example where when he returned from his trip, there was so much stuff in his living room that he couldn't even unbox his suitcase. It's super bad, he admitted. There's mold all over the bathroom walls and shit like that. It's just life. That's just the way it is.
No, it's not.
Yeah, no, it's not. It just never really bothered me because my breathing is fine. If someone tried to clean my house, they'd need a mask. Yeah. Oh my God.
my mess isn't bad because my breathing is fine.
This must be a bit, right? This can't be real. Okay, this must be like a story, like a PR piece.
The trash fumes aren't impeding my breathing.
My breathing's okay. All right, well, slob news for you. What a sick situation.
I would never have thought.
Let's see where to go from there. Vim's Lair. You ever heard of it?
Oh, of course. Yes.
No, I don't think I have.
You probably have used them before, John, without knowing it. There's only like a few. There's coolroms.com, right? There's Vim's Lair. There's a few, there's archive.org. There's a few places you go for your ROMs. When you need a ROM, there's a few places that you can set your watch to. Yeah, apparently Vim's Lair, Nintendo seized them and made them take down, a shitload of Nintendo ROMs. People get upset about this kind of thing, and fair enough. But don't you just feel like good old peer-to-peer is the way to solve this.
Absolutely. I mean, and the reason that those sites didn't even come to mind is I haven't used sites like CoolROM since, early 2000s. You just go and download a giant ROM pack, which I've done years ago, and I just pull my ROMs out of there.
Right.
Yeah. And I think Nintendo will come for archive.org eventually.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna, because I think there's like some loophole that they're clinging on to that's like for archiving purposes, that they're for backups. But I think Nintendo, like as soon as like, I don't know, some political winds go a certain way, they'll go against archive.org.
Yeah, that whole site kind of has a lot of problematic content on it that, is copyright questionable. So
Archive.org.
somebody's going to come for it. Yeah, archive.org. It's a great resource for all kinds of stuff that you can't find and people don't care about, but it's got a lot of stuff that people do, I'm sure.
I mean, that's where I got the CDI versions of the Zelda CDI games. The remasters are on there because as soon as the creator made them, he had to take them off the internet for obvious reasons. But archive.org has them.
They got to come for that, right? It makes it so easy to get what you want.
And they've been holding on so long too. I don't know quite how they're pulling it off, but
they must be making some sort of appeal about, the public record and aged media or something that's kind of working for them for now.
Yeah, it's kind of compelling until it won't be. I think it's going to eventually stop, but for now it's fine.
Or maybe like
let's just say if you want some ROMs, get them now.
yeah. and put them on a hard drive. Remember hard drives? Put them on one of those.
Still available on Amazon.
Well, I run into this sometimes. Somebody will come up to me in my life and they'll be like, "Were I to want to take data and put it someplace safe, what would that look like?" And because all they seem to know is Google Drive, Dropbox, sync tools that are completely invisible to them, like iPhoto,
OneDrive,
yeah. And I'm like, they're like, "What do? You handle all this media?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I buy like big 5 terabyte drives, and I buy 2, and I copy everything to both, and then I put them over in different ends of the room, and
just in case one end floods."
Yeah, I don't actually put them in different ends of the room, but I probably should like put one of them elsewhere. But honestly, when you do a risk assessment, it's normally based on likelihood and impact, and I think the likelihood of like the whole room going up in flames pretty low, hopefully. But the likelihood of like one of the 2 spinning discs corrupting, very high. So just having a second copy is the way to go. Jason Graves, our friend, John, who did the Goodwill video and stuff.
Yep.
Tell me if you're horrified as I am by this. He, like, for instance, he did this Goodwill video, right? That's performing really well for him, where he went to 104 Goodwills and he went game hunting at all of them and kept stats on what he found. And he shot for 2 days, stayed in hotels. I mean, really put some effort into the big edit.
Yep.
He then exports the whole video. He uploads it to YouTube, and when he's done, he deletes all the raw.
That's horrifying.
It is horrifying.
The only thing he keeps is the final export. And he gets rid of the I'm like, why, you monster? Why would you?
You just keep buying hard drives, Jason, and then they stack up.
I mean, I understand. I'm kind of on the digital hoarder side. I have tons of hard drives that have data going back to when I was 15. I get that maybe you don't want to go that far, or like the Red Cow archive, which has every single piece of footage we've ever done. But there's a happy medium.
There's stuff I'm missing too. In my life, there's some old projects I just okay, you probably didn't know this. I don't have the raw to the first 4 episodes of Boxmag. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to them. It happened early on where I was like, what happened to these?
I have some EJ reviews that fell prey to a corrupted hard drive. The disc stopped spinning, and I'm still thinking. I'm still like broken up about it to this day.
When I think about it, I'm sad. Do you ever I still will pull down like the YouTube downloadable version of the video just so I have like that offline,
I still want to see the 16mm print of Turkey Dinner.
Yeah, that's long gone, that thing. All you got is like a really, really compressed. And I looked too. I actually went back to my films. He's talking about when I was in film school, you had to shoot on 16 negative color for your film 2 project is what they called it. Film 1 was Bolex 16mm reversal. So for those who don't know, reversal film is like you shoot on the actual film that's running through the camera, and that is the very film that you project. Whereas negative is like you create a negative of the film that was shot. We had to get that digitized through, of all places, at Fall River, which is just nearby, which is kind of far from my film school. That was the cinema lab that everything went to. It was called I think it was called Cinelab or something. It was in Fall River, of all places, where you get your film developed. Back then, it was, you know, I think 5 minutes of film was $100. So yeah, to shoot 5 minutes was like a $200 thing. Even then, they were like, "Why aren't we shooting on digital? Like, why are they making us shoot on film?" And their answer was like, "Well, by it being so arduous, expensive, and ridiculous, you will more carefully plan all of your shots." And so, just to save money, I designed a really very simple little movie that was 3 setups. There was a wide, a shot of me and Keith. Keith was in a turkey costume. I won't explain the plot. And then one of Nina, who was the waitress. That way, all you'd have, like, because every time you, the viewfinder doesn't actually tell you what you're shooting. You actually have to measure the light, and you know you don't know what you shot until it comes back from the lab. That's how
it's amazing. Yeah, you had to like use those meters. You have to put it like up to where you're going to shoot. You have to dial in the right aperture and everything. Yeah.
So the idea was like if we all knew our lines, we could just run the camera, run through the whole movie in one take, and then like we won't have to have additional takes. It was a cost cutting thing, really. But anyway, I don't know what the hell happened to the final high quality version of that. I don't have it. So that's one example. There was, of all the stuff the 3 of us have shot for like Junt's Carts and Boxmax and whatever, I think only one time did we have like a true quote unquote disaster, which was we shot an entire scavenger Junt that we didn't transfer and is lost to the ages.
Does the audio still exist for that?
No.
Did the audio survive? No.
No, because we didn't shoot sync, non-sync audio.
There was no sync. Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We've had like cameras that we accidentally deleted the footage, but then we cobbled together stuff from other cameras. But yeah, that was the only one where we lost the whole thing.
Yeah. So that, I feel like I'm the Clint Eastwood of ROMs. I'm like, from my cold dead hands. Like, you'd have to come for my hard drive. What's the news story here? Emulation site Vim's Lair, which has been running since 1997, has announced that it's been asked to remove many games from its archives. Vim's Lair has been asked to remove many games from the vault on behalf of Nintendo, Sega, Lego, and the ESA. While most of these games and the hardware to play them haven't been sold in decades, ultimately it's their prerogative, so these games are now gone for good. Which makes you wonder, like, did Nintendo have the power to do this all along and hadn't been?
They must have. And how could they not know about these sites, you know?
So maybe they were being kind of cool for a while. Or is this a sign of things to come? Like, do they plan on like releasing some GameCube games and some Wii games? And they're like, we don't need the ROMs out there.
Those sites didn't even have games of those generations, though, did they? I thought they only had really old generations.
Vim's Lair is where I got my Wii games that I've downloaded and stuff.
Oh, really? Okay.
As well as hosting and preserving access to many video games, Vim's Lair also had a large selection of emulators and video game instruction manuals, as well as a message board. The site recently posted about the arrival of emulation on the iOS App Store, thanking everyone who has recommended Vim's Lair to Delta users, but noting that the surge in traffic is causing the web server to run out of memory and crash repeatedly. The server eventually stabilized. Many ROM sharing sites have come under fire recently, with one of the most high-profile being Forest of Illusion, which was focused on unreleased games. I like unreleased games. There's like two South Park ones that come to mind. There was like a one that was there's a Game Boy Color one that they made, and they turned it into a Maya the Bee Game Boy Color game instead, but it was initially a South Park game. And the story is that Trey and Matt said, that's too targeted for children. It makes no sense with our brand. And then there was one that was, I think, kind of meant to be like a hit and run, like a South Park hit and run instead of Simpsons hit and run. That you can watch footage of it online.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.